So today's lesson is lesson 1.1, which is integers and absolute value. Absolute value of an integer is the distance a number is away from 0 on a number line. So if you look for the absolute value, the symbol for absolute value looks like it has these two little lines around the number, just like that. So when you have absolute value, you'll see those straight up and down lines. So when you have the absolute value of a -4, what you're doing is looking for the -4 on the number line, and then you're counting how far away that -4 is away from 0. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So the absolute value of -4 is 4, because it's 4 numbers away from 0, or 4 hops, or 4 spots, or 4 numbers, spaces away from 0. So if I am finding the absolute value of 4, I find 4 on my number line, and again I count. How far away is the number 4 from 0? 1, 2, 3, 4. So the absolute value of 4 is 4. And that's what absolute value is all about. Absolute value is the distance a number is away from 0. So if I want to know what the absolute value of 2 is, what would I do? How could I do that? Well, you draw your number line, and if this is 0, that's 1, and that's 2. How far away is 2 from 0? 1. There we go. So the absolute value of 2 is equal to 2, a positive 2, because it's 2 away from 0. Okay? So the absolute value of -3. Pause your computer and you find the absolute value of -3, drawing that number line for me. Okay, the absolute value of -3. Well, if this is 0, this is -1, this is -2, this is -3. So I need to know how far away that is from 0. 1, 2, 3. So the absolute value of -3 is going to equal 3. Okay, that's what absolute value is all about. Alright? Okay. And if you didn't get that right, you really should rewatch that video so that you understand it. Okay. So we want to find the absolute value of these numbers. Now, if you need to draw that number line, you can, but if you have, by now, maybe you figured out that the absolute value of all of these numbers is going to be the positive of that number. Because absolute value is distance, distance is always positive. So the absolute value of 7 is going to equal 7. And the absolute value of -1 is going to equal 1. And the absolute value of -5 is going to equal 5. And the absolute value of 14 is going to equal 14. Because absolute value is distance, distance is always positive. And I'm trying to write this with my mouse, so you have to bear with me. It's always positive. So your absolute value is going to always be positive. Okay? That's a big deal and a big thing to understand. So if you don't understand that, that is a huge concept. Alright? Okay. Now, if we're going to compare 1 and -4, we want to know, is it greater than, less than, or equal to? So if I have 1 and I have the absolute value of a negative 4, I'll squeeze that in there, we have to first figure out what is the value of an absolute value of negative 4. Well, the absolute value of negative 4 is 4. So which is bigger? 4 is bigger. So 1 is less than the absolute value of negative 4. Okay? So again, greater than, less than, or equal to. Now in order to do these, you need to solve them. Okay? So the absolute value of negative 2 is 2. So which is larger, 2 or negative 1? And 2 is larger, so it's greater than. Negative 7 and the absolute value 6. The absolute value of 6 is 6. Which is larger? 6 is larger, so it's less than. Number 7. The absolute value of 10 is 10, and 11, which one's larger? 11 is larger. So 10 is the absolute value of 10 is less than 11. And then the absolute value of negative 9 is going to equal 9. 9 and 9 are equal to each other. So this is equal to. If you got those all right, you can move on. If not, you should rewatch. The freezing point is the temperature at which a liquid becomes a solid. Which substance in the table has the lowest freezing point? So you have to look. You have butter, freezes at 35 degrees. Airplane fuel freezes at a negative 53. Honey freezes at negative 3. Mercury at a negative 39. And candle wax at 55. So which substance in the table has the lowest freezing point? Well, which one of these is the lowest? In other words, the smallest. So 35, negative 53, negative 3, negative 39, or 55. So the lowest freezing point would be airplane fuel. At a negative 53. Is the freezing point of airplane fuel or candle wax closer to the freezing point of water? Okay, let's go back. The freezing point of water, well, that's not on our list. So we have to figure out what is the freezing point of water. So what is our freezing point of water? Our freezing point of water is not 0. Our freezing point of water is, oops, it's 0 degrees Celsius. It's 32 degrees Fahrenheit is the freezing point of water. Okay, that's a little background knowledge. So back to our chart. Airplane fuel is a negative 53. Candle wax is 55. So we have to figure out which one of those is closest to the freezing point of water. So a negative 53, oops, and 55, a positive 55. Which one of those two numbers is closer to 32? Well, 53 and negative 53, if you think of a number line, a negative 53 is all the way down here, and 0 is way over here, so you have to go all those hops, right? That's 53 of them. Plus then you have to go how many more? You'd have to go another 32 to get to a positive 32. So these two are 85 degrees away. That's a lot. 32 degrees Fahrenheit and 55, if you think of your number line, here's 0, here's 32, here's 55. So you just have to get from here to here. So it's 55 minus 32. Right? So you have a difference of 23 degrees. So these two have a difference of 23. So which one's closer? Candle wax. Now you have to explain why. Because, and I would expect you to explain why. And then you have to say, because airplane fuel, and I would expect you to write this out, I'm not because of my mouse here, airplane fuel is 85, is it 85? 85 degrees away. However, candle wax is only 23 away. And I would want a sentence. When it asks you to explain, I would want a sentence. Okay? Capital letter, period, verb, subject, etc. Okay? The freezing point of vinegar is -2 degrees Celsius. Is the freezing point of vinegar or honey closer to the freezing point of water? Okay, well we just talked about the fact that the freezing point of water is 32 degrees. Okay, freezing point of vinegar is a -2 degrees Celsius. Ooh, we're talking Celsius here. So actually, this isn't right. It's 0 degrees Celsius. Honey is, we gotta go back. Honey is a -3. Okay, so we'll do Fahrenheit in black. How about that? 0, 32, -3. Okay, so you have to go from here to here, which is 3. Then you have to go from here to here, which is 32. So 32 plus 3 is 35. Okay, that's honey. Okay, now let's do vinegar. The freezing point of water is 0 degrees Celsius. Vinegar is a -2 degrees Celsius. How far away is from here to here? That's a difference of 2 degrees. And that is vinegar. Which one's closer? Vinegar is closer. And now you'd have to explain your reasoning. Vinegar is closer, or vinegar is closer to the freezing point of water because it only has a difference of 2 degrees Celsius versus 35 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay? Okay. Okay. That is your lesson for today.